Oh no, audio again. Kui was having trouble with this in the pre-show. He'll figure it out. Welcome everybody. We're getting started here in just a moment once we get through these technical issues. Thanks for coming today. Let's see. Let me pull up our notes here. This is Koinos Talk, first of this week. We had 4 last week back to back. We are not going to beat that record this week, but we are excited to be back. And yeah, we are 1 week from the snapshot. So hope everybody's hyped for Koinos mainnet.
Absolutely. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Yeah, Snapshot's coming out Monday, October 31st on Halloween, midnight New York City time, or East Coast time.
And that's midnight of Monday. So it's like Sunday night. Right. So be aware that you should stop all trading before midnight, October 31st. And yeah, if you have any liquidity out on Uniswap, or if you have any tokens on Binance or Hive, which is a very small percentage, then make sure that you get those bridged back to the Ethereum network. And if for whatever reason you have some coin held in a custodial wallet where you don't own the private key, make sure that you get those tokens transferred into a wallet where you have that access.
Absolutely.
If you bought on Uniswap and you did that on the ERC20 network, which if you used Uniswap, you did, you should be good to go. Just make sure that you have your private key seed phrase copied down somewhere so you are secure, and make sure that you have access to that wallet when it comes time to claim on mainnet.
And also, if you are a liquidity provider, be sure to remove your liquidity from Uniswap or any other pool that you may be providing liquidity to. The other thing to note is that if you're on the edge about buying coin tokens right now, just be aware that we're approaching a time where there will be even lower liquidity than before, and you're likely to see a lot of...
Oh, Kui, your audio cut out again. This is going to be fun today. Yeah, so liquidity, obviously, we're going to be in a weird state for trading as we come up to the snapshot. People are going to be pulling liquidity, so you shouldn't expect to really be able to trade in the last day or two. I'm sure some people will try to get that pretty close to the cutoff time so that there's liquidity up to the end, but it's going to be dropping off. So price is going to do some weird things in the last minutes and day, and then going into mainnet, there's going to be no tradability of the token because you won't be able to trade the ERC20 because your tokens are really held in that snapshot data at that point.
Exactly. Then, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so then once we get on mainnet, it's a question of getting either listed on a centralized exchange or having a bridge or a stable coin or something like that, so that you're able to trade your value in coin for outside value, basically. So things are happening.
Yeah, trick or coin.
Yeah. Props for anybody who comes up with a good Koinos pun for a costume for Halloween. Be fun.
So today's show, we want to go into a little bit for developers specifically. There's a lot of tools out there for developers to use to build apps on Koinos, especially since it's a brand new blockchain. You would expect as many tools as there are in existence right now. Luke Willis, you're a full stack web developer, and you have a pretty good experience using TypeScript and writing dApps on Koinos. Why don't you run through with us some of the tools that you've used to create BurnCoin, for example, a decentralized burn pool that allows you to participate in mining without running a node on Koinos?
Yeah, so thank you, Kui. There's a lot of good resources out there for anybody looking to build on Koinos. I will say that because this is a new blockchain, it's not going to be as mature if you're coming from like an Ethereum mindset, where you're using tools that have been out for, what's it been now, 5-7 years, something like that, and they've really iterated and tuned your ability to build in Solidity, There's a lot of great contract kind of scaffolding tools that are out there. There's good website hosting that's really integrated with smart contract setups. So there's a lot of tools that exist in that ecosystem. So if you're building on an EVM chain and that's what you're used to, things are not quite that mature yet on Koinos. But it is very workable. I built burncoin.com, which is, as Kui said, a decentralized burn pool or mining pool for proof of burn on Koinos. And yeah, it's a pretty basic setup. I have a smart contract for a token, much like ERC20 tokens on Ethereum, which represents your balance of pooled VHP or virtual hash power. And if these terms don't make sense, I recommend you read the white paper and dig into how proof of burn works. We had a show last week where we talked about this as well. And if you have questions, you can definitely ask them here. If we have time, we'll get into it. Otherwise, we'll address on Telegram, Discord, all that.
Yep.
So yeah, so the pooled VHP token is where we track your balance within the pool. And then the pool contract is where you're depositing and withdrawing your tokens, basically putting in coin or VHP and taking out coin or VHP and seeing the balance of the pool go up so that your share of the pool goes up over time. And yeah, so that's the general setup is pretty basic. It's a really standard kind of stake unstake contract, and then just slightly unique because of the dynamics of Koinos, where they have the coin token and the VHP token, and we want to support both. Whereas like a normal staking contract would typically just have like one token that you could stake and not communicate the value as one-to-one between two different tokens, right? So
how hard was it? What tools did you use to actually launch the smart contract? I'm aware that there is a software development kit for people to basically ease their way into developing smart contracts.
Yeah, so the SDK that you're referring to is the assembly script SDK, which was developed by Roman, who's a community developer, and that's since been adopted by the Koinos group. They're using it for their own system contracts and supporting it as a first-class SDK for language support. So assembly script is the kind of TypeScript equivalent for WebAssembly. So Koinos is a WebAssembly blockchain. Any language that can compile to WASM can be used on Koinos. Today, there's support for C++ and AssemblyScript. So if you're coming from a JavaScript, TypeScript background, that's the easiest way to get into it. It's a really easy language to pick up if you've done any like JavaScript. But it does help if you're familiar with like typing, where JavaScript, you get away with a lot of, it doesn't matter what types things are, you can mix them all over the place. But TypeScript cares, and AssemblyScript cares even more, where you don't just have a number type, you need to care a little bit about, how many bits of a number takes. So it shouldn't be too difficult for anybody to pick up. And if you have questions as you dig into it, I think that's the easiest way to build a contract today, is using the AssemblyScript SDK.
So the AssemblyScript SDK was built by a community developer, this guy named Roman Rowe, who's very available on Discord, and he helps out building tools for the Koinos blockchain. You can contact him if you get into their Discord. He's not in our Telegram group, though. So if you're interested in building applications, I just dropped the link to the actual SDK in the chat room, which you're seeing on the left side of the screen right now. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is the easiest way to build a contract. I think that the easiest way to really get started is to look at some example contracts. So the Koinos burn pool is a great one if you're looking to do something with staking or a token. But there is another set of contracts also on Roman's GitHub where you can see other example contracts, and he has an NFT, a staking contract, an ERC20 type token, and a lot of what I have in the burn pool was copied from that to begin with. So it's a great resource if you're looking to get started with smart contracts. But as with any dApp, you have the smart contract and you have the website, the front end or app or however it is you're going to access the actual underlying blockchain system. And for the burn pool, there is a separate repository, Koinos burn pool UI, which you're welcome to take a look at, steal the code all you want. And that is using well, it's built in React and it's using Koilib, which is a front end library similar to Ethers.js and that kind of thing, which was built by Julian, which is a developer from the community. He's actually here in the chat today. Welcome, Julian. But yeah, highly recommend Koilib as the easiest way to get access to data from the blockchain and to interact with smart contracts. Yeah.
So Koilib is something for front-end developers to use and kind of integrate into the blockchain without actually having to type in any other language except JavaScript, right?
Correct. Yeah. So it's just a library for interacting with the blockchain, where you could figure out how to do all the fetching and managing requests and that sort of thing yourself. Koilib makes it easier to set up the contracts you want to talk to and make kind of more simple requests and that sort of thing without needing to manage a lot of the finicky stuff.
It's very similar to, I guess, if you come from the Ethereum world, the Web3.js package or the Ethers.js package. It's something that you can just pull in and start using and interacting with the blockchain immediately so that you don't have to do all that heavy lifting yourself.
Right. Now, the real power to Koinos, I haven't explored in the burn pool because the burn pool is really designed for people who are holding coin, who want to participate in the profits of proof of burn without running their own node. The real power for dApps on Koinos is the ability to offer free to use dApps. So if you're building on Ethereum and other blockchains today, free to use dApps isn't really an option. Like you could, but you'd be paying gas fees for your users, which could get really expensive really fast. With Koinos, because of the feeless mana system, you're able to spend opportunity cost by locking and unlocking your tokens dynamically instead of actually spending the monetary value. You never diminish your balance of coin. It only locks your tokens for a period of time, 5 days, until they're recharged and ready to go. So that opportunity cost is how you can afford to offer free to use experiences on Koinos. So within your front end, you would just set your own wallet as the payer for transactions. And so anybody who's using your app doesn't even need to have their own wallet. They don't even need to have their own tokens. You could just generate an address for them and then use that as the signer for any transaction with your dApp, and then set the payer as your pool of coin. And then as long as you've uploaded a contract that authorizes that usage of your mana for users, you're good to go. They'll be able to use your dApp without even setting up a wallet or buying tokens. So it's a really powerful setup.
That's a very, very unique aspect to Koinos. I think developers right now, they still have to kind of learn and absorb it just because it doesn't exist in any other blockchain framework right now. As you said, with the authority structure, it is a part of the blockchain. It's built into it. So I can't show you a specific dApp that uses it because, in fact, any user could use authorities to delegate their mana to another user, basically. That's actually not even the right term. What you're actually doing is that you're appointing another wallet to be able to use your mana. Mm-hmm. And in that framework, there's been discussions on how to effectively get other people access to mana without having them use an exchange to buy tokens. There's, if you go into Discord, for example, there's a couple models that people are running around. We're working on a model as well. Because it's such a new thing in blockchain, I don't think anything is wrong or right, and we're just going to have to develop a couple methods for users to kind of try out and see what's the best type of a method for use cases. Right. Developers, for example, they may want to grab a very large amount of mana and then let their users, play around with their dApps. Another way to doing it is that users from a peer-to-peer level begin to share their mana with each other so they can use dApps, and then that way developers don't have to worry about that. Another way is obviously using a pooled a pooled amount of coin, and people can draw mana from that pool, and they can use that mana on any dApp. So there's a lot of working models out there. No one can say for sure which is the best model, but absolutely we're welcoming anyone to try out a model, and we'll just see what sticks.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and I think to your point, we'll definitely see a lot of different models explored. Um, the power today is really held by people who hold their own coin, and that's always going to be true to an extent, right? Because if you're holding coin, you have a license to use that percentage of the network. So if you hold 1% of the supply, which would be 1,000,000 coin at mainnet launch, then you have license to 1% of network resources forever. Every 5 days, you get to use 1% of the network resources. And that's probably way more than any one person will use, unless you're doing a lot of botting and that kind of thing. So for people who have a significant amount of coin, more than enough to cover their own personal usage, you'll be able to allocate those resources to other people. And probably the best way to do that is to either build a dApp yourself or delegate your mana to dApps to provide free usage to their users. And I think that we'll see different models come out for how people are paid, or you know, different models for covering the cost of those resources, monetizing giving away your mana, so that it's not just a what's the word I'm looking for?
Like free,
yeah,
like no incentives, basically.
Philanthropic endeavor, right? It could be a for-profit situation, and so yeah, we'll definitely see different models explored by dApps and by people who have coin, and at some point we'll kind of level in on a few different that are common models.
Yeah, if you take a look at like EOS or even Proton XPR, which is a fork of EOS, their model requires developers to actually buy resources, and that's because there is no other way to get those resources.
Right.
On Koinos specifically, you will be able to share mana, and I think that simplifies the way people access the blockchain greatly. They don't have to really manage much. It's whether or not have enough mana to perform the transaction. If the answer is no, you can get more mana through a mana marketplace, buying coin. But the whole goal is to make it absolutely easy for the user who's not holding coin to use the blockchain, which I think it's a pretty big deal. Is there anything else you want to add? Because I want to kind of jump into some of the applications that are available, that will be available at mainnet launch, such as CoinDX and Burnpool and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think that mostly covers it. If there's any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We can get into more detail about the tools you have for developing on Koinos. Actually, I think there's one more I'd like to mention, which would be microservices. So if you're building today, having a smart contract and a front end that interacts with it is going to be kind of the bread and butter. You're used to seeing that on applications on other blockchains. But if you're building on Koinos, you also have the opportunity to build microservices, which is something that you run alongside the node on your own computer. And if you build a microservice, you can distribute it to other people, but it won't be like default baked into all the other nodes in the system. So if you want to have additional capability, whether that's an API node that communicates with other API nodes in a new way, or notification systems that are handled in a decentralized way, or like an external storage, there's any number of things that you could do. You can add any functionality you want on the node without needing to really break apart and understand the code of all the other services and capabilities of a Koinos blockchain. You just need to build your own thing that hooks into AMQP. So that's like RabbitMQ. It's a service bus that all of the other microservices that manage the capabilities of a blockchain node, you just build your own microservice that talks to that interface, and you can drop your own messages on the bus, or you can pick up other messages and use that capability however you like.
You can also build your own microservices into or modify the existing microservices of the level 0 framework for Koinos. That way, if you want to launch your own blockchain with a custom way of processing transactions from the mempool, for example, you can also do that, and you would be able to specifically target one microservice without affecting the other services and wondering what broke. So I think
Right.
it's a very powerful tool for people who are trying to launch their own blockchains in the future, which I think that if we're going to see more zero fee options out there, Koinos may end up being a very useful framework, just like Cosmos is a very good framework for multiple blockchains on their network.
Yeah, I think if you dig into the code, I think you'll see that the architecture of Koinos is it's really simple and it's very easy for a developer to think about and understand. So even if you don't like some of the decisions that have been made by Koinos, if you wanted to build a competing blockchain, you're going to spend more time picking up like Geth or some EVM uh, setup or any other blockchain that's been developed to date. You're going to have a harder time with those getting the specific capabilities that you want added in. So because of the microservice totally modular approach to building the Koinos blockchain, if you want to add a capability, if you want to swap out a capability or just remove some capability, that's something that you can do very simply without needing to understand all the inner workings of the blockchain. You can just say, I don't like the way they do block production. I'd like it to be proof of work. Swap out that one microservice, that one smart contract, you're done. If you don't like the mana system, if you'd rather have a gas fee, then swap out one or two things and you're done. If you want to add a totally new feature, it's as simple as writing a new smart contract, giving it system privileges, or adding a new microservice.
It's a pretty awesome, powerful thing. It'd be funny to see people take Koinos and work it backwards and apply a proof of stake system to it, or apply a gas fee system to it, and relaunch some of the classic type of blockchain setup using a microservice design. That would be
Yeah.
very funny to see.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk a little about is Von Luton and Elderang in the chat?
I haven't seen them, but they could be.
Okay. So I want to jump into a little bit about CoinDX, for example. It's an exchange, and they've exposed their API file to people and so they can basically interact with the smart contract, the decentralized exchange smart contract, directly in their app without using CoinDX. What do you think that's going to allow people to do if they create or developers create their own, finance type applications on Koinos?
I think that having a DEX at mainnet launch is going to be really powerful, right? It's standard fare on any blockchain today. You've got Uniswap, Sushi Swap. What else is there? Taco Swap.
Burger
Is that a
swap.
thing? Man, they're all over the place.
They're all food for some reason. I don't know why.
Somebody started it and it just took off. Yeah, so every blockchain needs a DEX. Koinos is no exception to that. CoinDX is the DEX of choice as we're launching. Competition's always welcome, so if anybody wants to build their own DEX, they're certainly welcome to. But I think that there's a lot of benefit to consolidating our effort initially on one project to solve one need, and then we'll have more competition over time. So CoinDX is the initial DEX that's going to be available. It's based on the Uniswap v2 contracts at launch, and it's pretty basic DEX. If you've ever used a DEX before, it's not much of a deviation from the standard. They're still working on UX stuff and improving the system across the board. But yeah, it's totally functional. You can swap coin for VHP for coin on testnet today. If you want to build your own ERC20 like token on Koinos and launch that on testnet, you can add liquidity and do swaps there as well.
You can also use Roman's assembly script SDK to launch your own NFT collection, put it on the exchange to swap to. A lot of the stuff is already pre-built out for you. A lot of it's actually in part thanks to Ethereum. Many of the frameworks for building systems have been tested and used on Ethereum, and a lot of people on Koinos were able to just grab the logic behind it and write it into assembly script and launch it pretty easily. So the DEX is available for you to use at mainnet, and you can test it out right now too on testnet as coindx.com.
Yeah, and it's important to note that this is for fungible tokens. So if you are building your own NFT collection or one of one NFT on Koinos today, you can swap it for free, but there's no NFT marketplace yet.
Right.
So there is opportunity for any NFT marketplaces out there or developers who want to build an NFT marketplace to support that capability on Koinos.
We're actually going to have the creators of CoinDX on this show later on to give some great updates that are going to be available for CoinDX at launch. We're also going to have Ron. I don't want to say his last name because I can't. It's a lot of syllables for me. I only got 3 syllables in my name.
I think it's Ron Hamenahem, the COO of Koinos Group, is going to be on tomorrow. And then what day are the CoinDX devs being on?
We're trying to schedule for Wednesday or Thursday. We're trying to figure out how that works out. But I really want to hear from Ron tomorrow, especially because as you just said, he's a COO of Koinos. And if you're buying a token, especially a token on the internet from some random people, you want to know who the team is. And Koinos is a team that's entirely based in the United States. They're all docs, so you know exactly who they are. You can find them on LinkedIn. You can find their work history, projects they've worked on in the past. So I think it's important to get people to understand the team behind Koinos, which is the Koinos Group. So Ron will be there. He's COO. We'll definitely get some good insights from him on the operations of Koinos, and that should help people understand what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah, and then just to be clear, Kui and I are not members of the Koinos Group. We are independent. We do know the team from life.
Yeah.
Kui does some form of martial arts with Andrew, the CEO, and
Muay Thai.
Muay Thai, thank you. And I was college roommates with Michael Vandenberg, one of the developers, so we're familiar.
Yeah, we're familiar with them, and I think it's important for you guys also to get familiar with these guys, just so you don't end up not knowing who the developers are, not knowing.
Your audio cut out again. But yeah, it's important to know what you're getting yourself into. So if anybody here is looking to purchase a token before the snapshot, then it's important to come to these and make sure you have a sense of who it is behind this. Yes, they're doxed. Yes, they're all publicly visible. You can check them out. And I also have interviews with each of them on the CoinPress podcast. Your audio's still out.
How about now?
Yep, I can hear you.
It's my backup mic now.
Yeah, no worries.
Backup mic and backup camera. But I think you've got interviews with each member of the group, and Andrew's been on the show multiple times, so you understand what kind of characters these guys are. And absolutely, these guys are about decentralization. They're not about short-term gains or anything. They're doing everything they can to ensure this be a long-term project. And I was just scrolling Twitter earlier today and seeing a couple, not rug pulls, but projects where the team basically abandoned it because they lost all funding.
Right.
And for Koinos, there was no funding available to these guys. They built the entire blockchain out of their own hard-earned, pockets, basically. Not that it costs much to build a blockchain, but they spent 2 years out of their own time doing this, and that means there's 2 years not working. And so they have a lot of blood and sweat put into this blockchain, this project.
Yeah, the 5 co-founders are all. This is a self-funded project, so the Koinos mainnet is coming live without any VC dollars. So the Koinos Group may raise funds later on. I wouldn't be surprised by that, but they're the shepherds of the blockchain. The VC dollars aren't going into securing a sizable centralized stake of the blockchain, where normally you would see a sizable token allocation for the team and for VCs and marketing and central exchange listings. This is not the case on Koinos. It was fair launched. Anybody who showed up and mined the token, proof of work, ERC20 coin, you had equal chance as anybody else. So same as Bitcoin in that regard.
One thing I missed on my show notes over here, Koinos, Explorer, and Koinos Blocks. They've got some cool features for developers too. I think some interactive features where you can directly connect with the smart contract kind of came alive a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so I mean, when you're building on testnet and you have a smart contract out there, you're going to want to use the Koinos CLI, which is the tool developed by the Koinos team, and that's great for issuing transactions and seeing the results and that kind of thing. But sometimes you just have to go investigate what really happened in your transaction and where tokens are going in your wallets and whatever it is that your dApp does. You want to verify that what you wanted happened. So koinosblocks.com and koinosexplorer.com are two block explorers. So just like Etherscan or any of the other block explorers that are available on other blockchains, you can go and look at the data. You can see blocks that have been mined. You can see your transactions as they happened, all that. So
yeah, these are great useful tools for everyone who is just getting new and getting started with Koinos. So, just to recap, today we talked about the Koinos Assembly Script SDK, which is created by Roman. It's a tool available for people to develop smart contracts easier. We've got Koilib, which is kind of similar to a Web3.js or Ethers.js for people to easily interact with the blockchain using JavaScript. You got CoinDX, which is a decentralized exchange, and it will be live on mainnet as well. We'll have the creators of CoinDX on the show later this week. We got Koinos Explorer and Koinos Blocks, which are two blockchain explorers that allow you to check out transactions and check out who's producing blocks and what block we're at. There's also burncoin.com, which is created by Luke and I. It allows you to basically participate in block production without having to run your own node. There's just a lot of tools out there, and this is just the beginning of it. We'll definitely see more tools as the days go by and months go by. And I'm kind of excited about seeing what happens next year for Koinos, even though it's only October 24th.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Lots ahead, and there's still lots of opportunity. Like, as you can tell, there's dApps being built, but yeah, like things like an NFT marketplace and games on Koinos. Any kind of application that can benefit from a free to use system. There's a lot of opportunity left for anybody who's looking to build.
Absolutely. So we're going to take this one last question on here, and then we'll take the end of the show. But over here, PD Pepper asked, what's the latest word on when mainnet? I think you misspelled when. There's an H in there.
You don't need that H. So yeah, the mainnet the date has not been announced, but the team has gone on the record saying that the snapshot is October 31st, and they don't see much need for a long waiting period after that before launching mainnet. So there's probably going to be a little bit of time for them to test and validate that the snapshot went off without a hook or without a hitch. That's the word I'm looking for. And really just make sure that everything's looking good from testnet before they do the official launch. So they'll be doing some in-house testing before the actual launch, but that'll be announced, and you'll be able to claim your tokens on mainnet whenever that launches.
Yeah, and if you really want to get up-to-date information about mainnet launch, please join the Telegram or Discord channel. You'll see a lot of people talking in there, and you'll get information way before you find it anywhere else. Don't even bother Googling Koinos. Just go to Telegram chats. Everyone's in there always chatting up, asking this, questions about mainnet, about using the claim that's on Koinos.io, about Condor Wallet. It's a really good resource. Just don't bother with Google unless you want to find videos or these chats or CoinPress stuff. But the most up-to-date information is on Telegram and on Discord.
Yeah, and then there's also the team posts things on Medium. There's probably going to be some articles out on Cointelegraph and that sort of thing. But HackerNoon, they post everything on Twitter. So make sure you're following at Koinos Network on Twitter. Be sure to follow Qui at QueasyHe and me at Luke M. Willis, so you can get all the up-to-date news.
Yep, and don't forget, tomorrow we're going to have Ron on the show, CEO of Koinos. So I'll see you again tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, great. Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye.